Welcome. We're so excited to be here with you today. My name is Paisley Freund, and I have over a decade of experience in sustainability in the private and the public sector. And at Bacardi, among a variety of other ESG topics I support on, I lead the Global Water Stewardship Strategy.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jamie Littman. I lead the Global Sustainability Strategy at Bacardi Limited, which is, if you didn't know, the largest privately held spirits company in the world. So today, Paisley and I wanted to have a conversation with you, really pragmatically, about what it looks like when a business sets a bigger ambition around water and how they go about addressing and tackling the issue. Paisley and I are going to have a conversation with you, loosely structured in 3 parts: setting the target, creating the roadmap, and implementing the roadmap. I'm going to kick us off by talking about setting the target. And to do that, some context is probably helpful. So I already mentioned Bacardi is the largest privately held spirits company in the world, and we're actually family owned. We have a beautiful portfolio of products that range beyond Bacardi to include Grey Goose Vodka, Patron, Bombay Sapphire, Angel's Envy Bourbon, Teeling Irish Whiskey, the list goes on. And we've been family owned for over 160 years. With that comes a culture of doing the right thing for the long run. Now, that influences our sustainability strategy, which we call Good Spirited, which is how we set targets to address all of our material impacts on people and planet. Now, we are very excited to be here with you today. Bacardi was actually a founding member of the Stockholm Water Prize, and it's very exciting for us to be on the stage with you for the first time at World Water Week, but this is a conversation we've been a part of for quite some time. Okay. So I mentioned through Good Spirited, through our strategy, we set targets to address all of our impacts. So as is the right thing to do, in our most recent materiality assessment, what came up, to no surprise to anyone in this audience, that our most critical resource is water. And Paisley and I and our team, we asked ourselves, were we doing enough to protect the water basins that we are withdrawing from, not only for our business, for the production of our products, but for the surrounding communities? We looked at it, we assessed, and we thought we could be doing more, and we should be doing more. So we knew immediately that we needed the senior leadership of this organization to be part of this conversation.
So, Jamie, we've heard a lot from companies that they have a struggle with getting executive buy-in. Can you give us a little bit of an example of how you were able to drive this forward with our very ambitious targets?
Yeah, so, well, first of all, my advice to anyone, and I guess this is really just an opinion, I think it's absolutely critical to get support from the top of your organization. You need it. So for us, how do we get that senior leadership buy-in to our ambition? I would say it's 3 parts. Now, it starts with one I've already mentioned with culture. There was already this culture of doing the right thing for the long run, so we didn't have to sell that mindset in. So we had that culture in place. What we did need, what we saw, was a little bit of a higher level knowledge and deeper understanding of the role of sustainability and water in the criticality for the long-term success of our business. So we needed some more input. So we brought in Harvard Business School professor George Serafim to engage with our CEO and C-suite just to raise the baseline knowledge on the role of sustainability in business. Then we brought in Paul Pullman and his organization Imagine to, again, do direct engagement with our CEO and C-suite to up-level kind of awareness and deeper understanding of the topic. Which brings me to the third element which we needed, which sounds kind of trivial, but is so critical, which is just time and space for this conversation with the C-suite. So we ended up, and at the time I reported to Bacardi's CFO, who really championed this effort. And through that, we were able to take about 50% of a 3-day C-suite offsite meeting to address this topic and workshop through it. And at the end of that 3-day meeting was an absolute all-in, buy-in for the idea that we need to be doing more to address water. So coming out of that meeting, Paisley, you and me, and then our key partners in our supply chain organization, we literally worked around the clock to assess and refine and define what our new target would be. And the outcome of that was a vision to be water positive across all of our operations by 2030. A much more ambitious agenda than our previous water reduction targets. So for us, what that looked like was a number of components to achieve it. First and foremost, of course, reducing how much water we use, increasing our efficiency, And for any water we do withdraw, creating closed loop systems so that we can use that water again and again. And then for the water that we did withdraw from the basin, to create a stewardship plan so that in every one of our water basins, we were engaging in water stewardship, often replenishment projects, to return the water back to the environment. So this was this new ambitious target. We were going after it. We were figuring out, and we were also saying, okay, how do we achieve this? And this is where Paisley comes in. Paisley, you've been instrumental in creating and driving the roadmap forward of what the stewardship looks like to achieve this target. So tell us, what was the critical first move in creating that roadmap?
So before we even set the target, we were actually a part of a collective action project called Charco Bendito in Mexico. So we were able to use this as a blueprint to support our strategy going forward. But really, the critical first move is really ensuring that you select the correct partner to support you on the journey. So for us, it was environmental resources management, and they helped us with our water vulnerability assessment studies, which is an analysis at every one of our water basins to see what the priority area and identify risks and opportunities are in the basin. So for Bacardi, what is critical for our strategy is to ensure that in every single place where we operate, we have and ensure we have a full water stewardship strategy.
Yeah, so sounds like assessments are a key component of that, those water basin assessments. Are they just looking at environmental impact, or is there also a social impact element?
Yeah, so in every single one of the water stewardship projects that we select, there is a social co-benefit that is interwoven. So as an example, when you look at the water vulnerability study, it will identify the right area in which to focus, so the priority for the basin. So you may have a basin that needs replenishment volumes, tree planting. And with this type of work, there is a community aspect. The community is positively benefited and impacted. And in other areas, in other basins, you might find that the priority is actually ensuring that the community has access to clean and fresh water. And so inherently, this is a social topic at the forefront. So interwoven throughout any of the projects you work on.
Okay, so the assessments are also critical, it's sounding like, in identifying the right project for whatever the specific needs are of the basin so that we're doing the right stewardship that matches the needs of the community. What happens if there isn't already an existing project in a water basin? If you have any learning challenges and learnings to share of developing a project from the ground up?
Yeah, so we have a ton of challenges and learnings to share for sure. I think one of the big ones for us is supply and demand. So we found that in certain basins, there is a big demand for projects and not enough availability. So the learning there is to ensure that you are flexible and you can pivot where necessary. And in other areas, you might find there's a collective action project with a variety of companies who are all working in the same water basin and come together and focus on these shared challenges. So we are really big advocates of collective action projects around the world. And at times, you might find that in the water basin, actually, there is no project. So you have to develop the project from the ground up. So these are some of the learnings that we've experienced on our journey so far. And some other learnings to share are just really ensuring that within your company, you have the right governance structure in place, the right infrastructure to drive your targets forward. That is critical. Another big learning for us is timing. So as an example, if you're working in water basins where you're replenishing and planting trees, you're working with nature-based solutions. So let's say you sign a contract today with a partner. Well, potentially 2 months ago was the planting season in that area. So that means you have to wait an entire year to get those trees in the ground. So when you as a company are setting future-facing targets, it's critical that you ensure that you are identifying projects and being aware of the timing. So those are just some really high-level learnings we've experienced.
Yeah, and if I can elaborate on that timing piece, what's been really interesting, especially in lieu of where our stewardship requires replenishment, which is often a nature-based solution, such as planting trees, that timing element of the planting season, there's a moment in time that you have to get seeds in the ground, so to speak, based on what you think your future water usage is, right? So we have course, we're measuring and constantly monitoring our water usage, and ultimately we have to predict what our water usage is in 2030 so that we're replenishing the amount that we would draw more. With business strategy, there can be changes in production strategy, changes in demand in any given region. So it's really important to, again, back to senior leadership buy-in, staying synced up with the business strategy so that you're really operating and creating a strategy map to what your projected future water use. And it's something that we're constantly going to have to iterate and pay attention to get this right and monitor it. Okay, so we've set the target, we've created the roadmap, now we're implementing it. We are not the first to set this target, and we are not the only ones, which is a great thing. We love being a good company. So tell us about the landscape and how that informs implementation.
So, with every topic in ESG, it is a shifting landscape. So, it is critical that we stay a part of the global water conversation. As an example, we set our water positive target, making sure that we're at the forefront of those definitions of the future movement of water is critical to ensuring that we're hitting our targets and we're aligning with global strategy. We've found it really helpful to be a part of membership organizations. So, as an example, we're a member of the Beverage Industry Environmental Roundtable. They're leading our collective action project. We just recently joined the Alliance for Water Stewardship. We found their forum to be unbelievably helpful to stay a part of that conversation. Here at World Water Week, another wonderful place where we see leaders joining forces together, driving that conversation forward, and aligning on best practices. We are a member of the United Nations Global Compact for over a decade, and there's a variety of other organizations that you can be a part of to support your strategy, but these are just a few that we found very beneficial.
Yeah, in good company is what I would say about that. Okay, Paisley, final thoughts. For a business that wants to step up and address their water usage and more for themselves and their communities, how do they do this well?
I would say four main things, Jamie. So, one, ensure that you have a strong strategy to hit your ambitious targets. Two, make sure that you have the right governance in place at your company to drive these targets forward. The third thing is making sure you really select the right partners along the journey. And the fourth thing is staying ahead and on top of the global water stewardship conversation.
Yeah, well, speaking of the conversation, it's why we're really, really thrilled to be here at World Water Week with all of you engaging in these topics. We have been so inspired by the talent and the brain power that is across all these organizations, entities, and other corporations, all to make the world a better place and protect our water sources. So thank you so much for having us.